Hello. Hi, sweethearts. My name is Chris Farah. Welcome to my channel where today, and it's Monday, October 20th, I'll be talking Sister Wives. This is season 20. It's episode 4. It's a live recap. My babes, can you believe it? So, I'm going to wait for some peeps to populate, get in the room, putting on some chapstick. Okay. Transitional episode. But interesting because it's okay. So obviously 4 episodes into this season, we know that McKelty has decided to move to North Carolina to be closer to Maddie and her family, which is much to the chagrin of Christine, who loves McKelty, loves her family, wants to be loved and admired, and has moved there only to be, promptly left by McKelty. A. B. Robin and Cody decided to, in one fell swoop, give up Coyote Pass and also give up their really dated 2 big home on pillars, which is one of the over the top gestures that caused strife amongst the family. Hi guys. Hello everyone. I'm so happy to see you guys. So, hi. Hey. Yes. So, that's what we're coming in on. And then of course Mary's storyline, which is, not super ingrained in any other parts of the family because, there's not that many people on her side left that want to be filmed. And her work, which is getting back in the dating scene. Okay. So, it's interesting because I kind of keep going back and forth whether I find that I find Mary watchable. Because the ways in which they have to maneuver around not having Leon and Mary's somewhat solitary nature, and then, her relationship with her only friend/friend Jen is interesting. It's just that I want to think better and more of Mary, but she's so limited in what she can film that it's a little boring. It's also kind of hard because surely Mary has a better personality than Robin. And by better personality, I mean who would you be in a car with for a long time? I mean this would be a really horrible car ride for you either way. But Mary would be better. And then literally I've said this before, but I kind of feel like I could somehow talk Mary into getting us a gummy in that mouth and then just maybe just giggling with me and then just passing out when need be. But what we get with Mary is obviously the continuation of the saga of dating. I will say that there are some similarities between her viewpoints and mine when it comes to the rules of online dating. And also that made me incredibly depressed. So don't worry, I'll get into it. Yeah. When we start the episode, I just want to say a couple of other things before I start. A, this is the schedule that I'm doing. Right now, it's 5 p.m. or it's 5:05 PST. That's what we're talking about Sister Wives. Tomorrow at the same time, I'll talk 90 Day. And then Wednesday at 7 p.m., I'll talk Love is Blind, which is the wedding episode that gets released Wednesday. So I don't have early screeners, but what I was planning on doing is watching the episode and almost immediately going live with notes so we can discuss it. So that is what is on the agenda, planned accordingly, and or watch replays. I also wrote a Substack. Now, I'm going to give you this Substack picture, and then, it's chrisfarah at substack.com. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm wearing absolutely no makeup, right? And so there's redness and dark circles and all this stuff. I'm wearing chapstick, but that's it. So I'm cognizant that I am not giving you full-fledged beat face for what I'm about to give opinions on, which of course is makeup. And in regards to Sister Wives, I wrote, I wrote truly a dumb article. And I think that is what my brand is dumb things. I if you haven't noticed, deep immersive work on what could be small or trivial things. And in the current landscape of politics and culture, the escapism of reality television certainly seems nice. Now, I don't live my life in the escapist world of reality television. I'm in the world. But having said all that, there is the dumbest piece I wrote that's basically trying to give a metaphor for McKelty's eyebrow challenges and her polygamist upbringing. Okay. Now, we know that McKelty is not the only Brown family member to have experienced eyebrow challenges. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's true. Like, Robin was made fun of, Mary made fun of, like all of them. So if that interests you, if you are someone who has thought about eyebrows or likes the show or wants to see my recommendations for McKelty in a very big sister energy kind of way for, you know, letting go of shit that didn't serve you and thankfully showing us that trying is fine, but also leaning into things that actually serve you, like family members that aren't narcissists. And also like a cool toned blonde eyebrow pencil. Maybe two, maybe like in a blonde and a taupe, that she can really use to kind of like lightly give us the idea of eyebrows without any strong geometric boxes or shapes. So that's what that's what the article's about. And so tell me what you think. Please comment. Tell me what you think if you're on Substack. Okay, 6:33 at 7 minutes, which is in 20 seconds. I'll start the ep. Okay, my babes. Yeah, and also DocuSweeties has HEA, which of course is the podcast that I started with Wahima that we're no longer going to be doing in a month. So if you are a DocuSweeties fan, you have only a couple episodes left of us talking about shows together in an RSS feed. So check it out. Okay, hi, Sister Wives season 20, episode 4. This is a live recap. Honey, we start. Mary walks in to her friend Jen's place. Jen, we know Jen. Now, Jen has a whole ass husband, which, his name is Sean. I'm sure we've met Sean before, but it's like, I forget that like this person exists. I wonder what Sean does when Jen's with Mary all day long. Well, I guess fix bikes. This is a bike shop that they've opened in Parowan. Now, this is like what I also think is interesting. They're in Parowan, Utah, right? Parowan is I can't even say it right. Parowan. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Parowan is like a small town, obviously. And it's where Mary's bed and breakfast is. Wildly, I've been there. Wildly that, during COVID, I took like a road trip. I think like a lot of people went to Zion. I tried, but there was too many people. But as you drive through Utah, like Parowan's right there, and we're fans, me and my cousin Mo. So we stopped by Mary's Heritage Bed and Breakfast Inn, and we took pictures. If we actually got like Mary's social circle in Parowan, I think it'd be more interesting. Like we do get her friends, right? Like we get Jen, we've seen the sip and paint, and the sip and paint was the best part. Now, we also got to see like a very broke down speed dating scene that didn't seem exciting, festive, real. And all the people that she talked to, none of them are winners. But we're supposed to put our feelings behind Ron, but we don't really believe that Ron was like a real factor. It's like, does Mary drink? Yes, right? Does like Mary go to bars? Like, how come we can't see Mary at a bar? Like, okay, maybe let's just say she doesn't drink and she's still working with that. Like, I think I need to see Mary like playing pickleball, naturally meeting people and like, or Mary doing things that are like outside of her comfort box. Like, I think that it would be great to see Mary, yeah, like trying new thing after new thing and then like watching her experience that with people rather than like talking about things. Again, the sip and paint night fun, but now we are literally going to have a scene at the bike shop that we're supposed to believe is also now the happening spot in Parowan without seeing it. You can't just tell me that this bike shop is where everyone hangs out. Why don't you guys come back with cameras at 4 o'clock if that's what happens and let me see it? Like, I want to see the people Mary hangs out with. I want to see the people that she talks to. I want to see the people that Mary interacts with besides Jen on a day-to-day basis that like know that she's famous, but also are like from Parowan and know that she is too. And she's very like, kind of like salt of the earth, kind of, like I'm assuming that people think that Mary is I don't want to say normal, like a layman, right? Because Mary doesn't present like typical reality stars, right? Like if Mary tried to be in that town like any real housewife or even like the girls from Provo, it's like a very different look, but Mary doesn't. So I'm assuming that people that come in contact with Mary either are seen the show, therefore know who she is, or when they see Mary, they're like typical Parowan lady. We, like not famous. Okay, so this bike shop is like, the talk of the town, and we're happy for Sean and we're happy, for Jen. And then Sean knows that he has to leave, which is what he does every time that Mary comes in. And I want to know what Sean does is his time that he gets to go play video games, like does he know that his wife is doing the Lord's work of giving us any sort of scene with Mary for a whole season? You know what I'm saying? Sean. So Mary is showing Jen after talking about Ron and it like not really kind of going anywhere. She shows her the dating app that Mary's on. Now we deep dive into that app and we know that it's like not Hinge and it's not Raya. It's not Bumble and it's not Tinder and it doesn't look like it's Field. Whatever app she's using has a feature where, let me just finish the sentence. This is my biggest problem. Can you tell? She has a feature where when you look at someone's profile, they know, they can tell, like you can see who's viewed your profile in real time. And specifically because she has to like show Jen the 6 dudes that she's talking to, she has to like go through all their profiles. It's like embarrassing for her that she's like looking at them. I remember thinking about that. I forgot which apps like has that. That's like either OK Cupid or like Plenty of Fish. Like that's what I remember like an inkling of something like that being on one of those. I think there was a moment where a lot of us were on OK Cupid. I just don't know what happened to OkCupid. I guess Tinder and Hinge. I mean, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble took over. And then Raya, there's the League, which is some other bullshit I tried once. Oh, there's so many shitty one. Luxy. Oh my God. Horrible. You guys. What a shit show. And then, of course, I brought up Field, which is like kink positive, kink positive, sex positive. I don't think Mary's on that. But interesting is that when they bring up one idea and theme, then they like to go through all of the other people and get quick opinions. And we got that, right? Mary's bringing up dating apps. And when Robin is like, oh, people do that? God, it just feels so disconnected. No one would be serious. Unlike what I do, which is find married men and then seduce them, probably maybe do something before we get married, take inappropriate engagement photos, get married, and then secretly smirk every time he puts me on a pedestal, you know, instead of all of his other family members or any of them. And I think it's not a problem. I'm not embarrassed or shamed by it. I think other people should be okay with it. Just grin and bear it. My name's Robin. Um, Christine's like, yeah, I was in an app and it was just weird because people could also, well, not weird, she didn't say that, but she's like, yeah, it's interesting, whatever her word was, because people can be poly and ENM on it. And that was like different for her, except not really different because obviously she's polygamous, but like in a different way of what they're wanting. And I was like, is that Hinge? Yeah, Hinge, I think does say ENM. But to me, when she was saying that, I was like, girl, you on Field? Okay, so Janelle's like, no, I wouldn't be on a dating app, which we're like, yeah, girl, we know. You don't date basically anyway. Like, no, I mean, no one wants to be on a dating app. That's the thing about dating apps. No one wants to be on one. We know it sucks. We know it's obviously better to meet someone in real life. It's just that at some point, every time we complained about being on an app, someone said, "Well, so and so met their blah blah blue on it." And then we have to just sit there lonely and being like, "Oh, I guess I'm not doing enough work then." Okay. Horrible. But, sometimes, beggars can't be choosers. So Cody's also against dating apps. No, like you've never dated before. What's the sure? Besides, like you hooked up with Robin by giving her a look at a church. So tell me about your experience with dating apps. He's like, just it would be like sending a resume. So basically, Mary and Jen talk, and I will say there are a couple of things that Mary says that I agree with, and then I hate myself and love myself for that. One is obviously she hates being on apps. Same girl, same. It's a nightmare. It feels like everyone's not the greatest on there, and then also you kind of know that you're on there too, and it does a lot of bullshit to your self-esteem. The last thing is she's like, okay, if someone likes me and then I like them back, they have to message first. Now, I agree. I mean, for me, I think because I'm like operating in, like that cisgender heterosexual tradish world in that sense, would appreciate this person always to message me first. And I think that it's just, I don't know. I think it's great. I think it's great for both of us for that to happen. I think that like the side of the street clean that I'll keep in that for like accountability's sake in that arrangement is that I really try and give good, concise, no, sorry, good answers that like involve questions and nuance and details and like details about what the other person said. I really like try so hard to do that. You'd be surprised though. She brings this up too. She's like, you'd be surprised how many people like won't ask you a question or like when they're answering a question you have just asked them, it'll be like a one word or two word answer and then they send it like a fucking psychopath expecting you to then trip over yourself to like be like, wow, great answer. Yeah, yeah. I'll keep the conversation going. Sure. Got other questions for you. How do you feel about the Dodgers? Like what? It's interesting to me. I always want to know, like, when that happens, you're doing that, right? Like, oh, is this your way of letting me know that you don't really care? You're not really interested, but like you'll give a two-word answer to see what I'll do with it? Or do you think that that's all that's required for you? That I'll respond to your two-word thing with more, and then maybe you'll be inspired to keep the conversation going in some way? Do you think that is it that that person thinks that there's no decorum in this kind of world? I mean, I don't know. It's wildly fascinating to me, and I often wanna call people out in social media dating situations to be like, "Okay, well, yeah, it doesn't seem like you seem very interested in me because you haven't asked me a question at all, despite the 3 questions I asked you in a row, so I don't know if that's how you usually are or if that's worked for you, but, like, heads up, this is what I've noticed." You didn't ask for feedback, but boy, am I giving it. Okay, so we also got a conversation where Mary's like, "How many years younger, constitutes cougarism?" And it's given Jen says at least 10 to 12. And I respect that because I think that as women, I think that sometimes, like again, in this cisgender heterosexualness, women often feel like weird or a cougar if they're older than men by like anything because of maybe like somewhat of a patriarchal society we've grown up in or whatever. Like I don't know, sometimes I feel that way. I know I've dated people that were like 2 years younger than me and then I've like commented on it, maybe probably too much because I don't know, like I should feel weird or maybe I don't know. But 10 to 12 years is definitely like, a good amount of time. I can't okay, so yeah, would I date someone in their early 30s or 29? Like, date? What does dating mean? Mary's like, "Look, when you come from a polygamous family or where you come from any sort of like probably conservative, fundamentalist and or religious home, house upbringing, dating and sex and all that marriage stuff is, usually really regimented and whatnot. But usually it's like, yeah, you date to marry. You don't just sleep around. And what sleeping around means, or what it means to have multiple partners, or at least even be entertaining multiple suitors. And what that means is, something that has to be defined for each person. Because, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shame around sex. And I know I felt that like from being pretty like mid-level, well, I'm Catholic, but like Catholic seems mid-level in the religious spectrum. And I'm just saying, as someone who went to Catholic school her whole life and like grew up with that dogma, I know that the idea of sex and who, constitutes like, like woman and who constitutes, like someone who you don't bring home to mom is like list of behaviors, and they're kind of vague. Because the truth of the matter is you never really know like what's happening behind closed doors unless people tell you. But Mary, I would rather have a really deep conversation about sex with Mary on how she feels about connecting with people and like sharing parts of herself and her body with people in this new world. Like that seems more interesting, like how you're navigating that. Like she might not be able to be comfortable talking about it, but that's what we want to know. You don't have to give us all the nitty-gritty, but I think because it isn't so much like the hardcore details, although some would be great, more so like the honest process she goes through of having to like rectify dating in 2025, maybe no longer being like a fundamentalist Mormon who I assume is going to have some level of sexual relationship with someone before they get married. I'm not quite, but like I need to know all that. At some point, she has to understand that to be on a reality show is to give personal information. And I know that they tried so hard to not do that. But once they did, right? Like, let's find ways in which we can, share parts of our honest selves. That's also interesting. And Mary, it's hard for Mary. So, and the other thing about Mary is that I do think that Mary is horny and sexual. So I think that she wants to talk about this stuff. Like, they're going to joke over a picture of a guy where it says "kiss the cock," and she thinks it's funny. She thinks that like he looks like a good time, and I'm like, okay, girl, you wanna? Because is that? I mean, yeah. Are you? Is that an invitation that you're like signing up for? Because to me, I'm like, well, then let's talk about blowjobs. Is she down to give blowjobs? Is that what that means? Like, can we talk about that then? If we're gonna dabble about eggplants one episode and then have basically the word cock in a picture and have her be like, "That's my kind of guy," then can we elaborate? You don't. I mean, how many blowjobs has Mary given? Does anyone like? I don't know. I just really okay. That's like this is why it's annoying to me. So, Mary says that back in the day, when she met Cody, that Cody had a light in his eyes and that he was very, very charming. Um, Cody also says that Cody is hiding something. It's like a very small comment, but it's like in relationship to the fact that the Cody that she knew that when she got married to Cody, that he was warm, gregarious, charming, highly charming, lovable, talkable, had a light in his eyes, and that the Cody that she knows now isn't that. But that again, when she said that he's hiding something, I was like, girl, what? What is he hiding? Because like that here's just a list of things that Cody could be hiding. A, mental illness. B, I'm just not even gonna laugh about it, but that wasn't my first option. That came to me like just purely as an instinctual thing. B, having had hooked up with Robin before they got married. Therefore, having effectively, truly been the demise of the family, not just from like their behavior standpoint, but from a moral standpoint. Or some other thing. Cody did a bad thing that we don't know about. Cody killed someone. Cody's involved in, nefarious undertakings in some way and criminal undertakings in some way. He's hiding some truth about himself that we don't know about, either something about maybe his gender expression or sexuality. I mean, who the fuck knows? We don't. But all I'm saying is when she said that, I like immediately had my antenna up. And then I was like, did the producers hear that? And why can't we just quickly go to all the women like Christine and Janelle and be like, hey, quick question. Do you ever think that like do you ever think that Cody's hiding something? And also like, what is he hiding? And in relationship to Mary said that, what do you think Mary means? They have no problem doing that kind of stuff. So, um, we're going to get into like, more of the cause of the demise. And we know that it's Cody, even though Cody is so strongly, vilified, the other wives or whatever. And this also gets brought up in this metaphor or simile. That's not really this comparison that they have with that other family called the Daggars. The Daggars, not Duggar. Not okay. Wait. I have problems saying things. Not the Duggars. Not Duggar. Okay, Darg like AR or ER, which is another polygamist family that this family we had met on Sister Wives before. They're friends with the Browns. They are the family that like Big Love was based on. They are an open and public polygamous family that went public kind of like for Cody's reasons or what Cody said he did, which was to like challenge lawmakers and, make people see that like, we're all the same, blah, 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 and it could work and everyone's really happy and what a great thing polygamy is. And, when done well, it doesn't hurt people and, just causes everyone to grow better and love should be, multiplied, not divided. Okay. Now, they also had a TLC special called like My Two Wives or something like that. Now, they are brought up because they are still together. And both Cody and his ex-wives, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, paint them as a working polygamist family. Now, Cody gets in this conversation talking to his brother. Cody, as we know, is moving, thank God. And he's brought his brother Michael over, who's 19 years younger, to like help move stuff. Now, during this scene, dudes are doing dude stuff. And it's probably like the stinkiest, grossest scene sensorially besides the licking scene. I think that there is something about Cody that is trolling us and he like wants to gross us out disgustingly in every scene so that we like talk about him. So him and Michael are moving and he's sweaty, and it's smelly. And he says that. And it's like really bad BO. And he's obsessed with the idea that he, in fact, has masculine pheromones and that Robin should like be very turned on by his masculine pheromones, like his smelly BO from his armpits just wafting across that dark wood home, across all of the sad faces of those baby dolls and just get to those nostrils by Robin and really just like make her wet. That's what he wants. And he wants her to be like, yeah, it totally does. But Robin won't. For as much as Robin must have given Cody what he wanted and needed back in the day, certainly Robin refuses to do so on TV, which makes me wildly happy. Now, Cody always wants to have his ego stroked on camera and I'm sure off camera and other things stroked, but mostly he wants to like be seen as hot has being like masculine by being like very sexy, by having like, you know, a lot of like love and kind of like spark sexual connection in his life. And Robin doesn't want to give that. Robin is like, I just am not an affectionate person. And I blame the other wives for that because when I was married to Cody, you know, polygamy says, you know, you can't be affectionate or the other wives would be jealous. And I just was so PTSD by them other wives, honey, that I refuse to give him a look when he makes those comments now. In fact, I like actively ignore him like a toddler in a tantrum so he stops and says that to his face. His shy, sweet wife. What a great shy, sweet wife. What a sweet heart. Like, you know, when you think about, okay, you wanted this, you wanted to just be like, just so I know, repeatedly rebuffed and like ignored and like by a frigid person on TV. That's what you wanted. Made sure that happened. So, but his conversation with Michael is all about the polygamy that gets us into this Dagar conversation. Mostly Michael being like, yeah, you know, listen, our dad got into it late in life. Late in life. That's probably why it worked. And that's where Cody like goes off on a tangent how their dad just was like a miracle man, renaissance man, so masculine, so cowboy-esque, just riding horses and having women weep, throwing panties at him. That whatever he did, which Cody hinted at being like kind of an asshole, authoritarian, whatever he wanted to do, he did kind of man. The other women went for it because his masculinity was so loud, so attractive that like Janelle's mom, remember he's married mom, like all of them are just like, yes, whatever it is, whatever you do to us, we say yes for more of that, you know, for more of those BO pheromones, those brown pheromones, just like Cody must have watched that and was like, great. I'm also a white male, the son of my father. So all I have to do is masculine men stuff. Women will love me and I don't have to treat them well. Oh, good. That's how you do it? Check, you know? So in response, so okay, so then, but at this moment, obviously, Cody doesn't like, you know, has absolutely shunned his faith, doesn't believe in polygamy anymore, and has some issues because for some reason, like maybe Robin does. Robin wants to lead this life, and we don't understand why Robin doesn't understand the challenges inherent in polygamy. And Cody's POV is that it can't work. That there's just like no actual way for it to work. That everyone that's in it is absolutely in hell except for this one Dargar family. And the reason why the Dargar family worked, he says, is because he says all the wives were of a homogeneous, whatever, culture. They were all the same. Now, we're like, okay, cool. So Robin wasn't raised in polygamy. Janelle and Christine were. And Cody, you came to it like later. Mary, like, you know, yes and no. So it's like, really, the people that weren't like hardcore in the culture were like you and Robin. So, like, those are the people that didn't understand like the task at hand, which was an evenness. Of course, Christina Janelle is like, yeah, that family works because of the Dagar dad. He's great. Christine uses a metaphor, and this is where I can use that word correctly, that some men are like architects and some men are like firefighters. And the architects have a plan and they execute the plan. They have like discernment and they have like mindfulness and they've thought about things and they even have plan B and plan C. They really like taking their time to consider things and, you know, maybe even have a technique or, you know, a certain skill in designing such things. And then there's the firefighters that run in when there's a problem, you know, overly douse the scene with whatever remedy they have and then want to be treated like a hero, you know, but do nothing to like truly help the fires. By the way, that's not really like a great That's not what she said, and I think great things of firefighters. So this is really Christine's metaphor. But really it's going to talk about Cody. She felt like Cody just ran in, tried to take credit where he needed to take credit, like, and then also didn't really know what the fuck he was doing and didn't want to. Didn't even want to like take the time or space to like sit down and consider things, plan ahead, and have like a certain evenness or a fairness at it to see the plans from like a bird's eye view. Like, that's another thing. Like, I assume when you are an architect and you're looking at plans, you're like standing over your big ass table. They call them something else, architect's desk, right? And you like see the plans and you're like, oh yeah, a bird's eye view. You're seeing everything. But when you're a firefighter, God bless, you're in the thick of it. You are yourself walking in, seeing what you're seeing. Oh my God, there's a woman screaming. Gotta go to her. I'd fix that. But it's hard to see everything. You're not above the burning building watching it, or the building the day before seeing what could have happened. So there's also like the mindfulness to be able to take yourself out of the situation and see it again from like that third vantage point. And Cody could never. Drafting table, sure, yeah. Cody multiple times says things that we're all like, yeah, that's what happened. But when he's saying it, he doesn't realize it's another confession for the fucked up shit he did. Case in point. As Cody is packing up this house, right? And we're getting a lot of like, yeah, this house meant a lot, but also this house was like our undoing. And it's because he says that this 5-bedroom, overly big house was too much house and too expensive, and that the other wives felt it was incredibly unjust and like wildly unfair of him to not take them into account and their feelings by putting Robin in that home. And he's like, those women were so mad at me for taking care of Robin. You don't He admits that he fell in love with Robin, and that Robin and him were like love at first sight, and that Robin and him have a soulmate love that was different, that he wasn't in the net. He admits that he wasn't even in love with the other wives at some point. And he admits that Christine disgusted him and everyone blobbity blue. He admits that Robin was the only sane one in his mind to give him space for an office. The other women were so greedy with their homes and just having only spaces for, I don't know, all the kids they bore them. And so as he says all this and has been saying these things, and as Robin and him are really sitting there be like, we fell in love and we were, you know, shot for it. It's like, I've always wondered why, in the realization that you have now experienced love for the first time, that there wasn't like a dual-edged sword in Cody's mind, like compassion for Janelle, Christine, and Mary, who he now realized he was never in love with, and that he never would love them the way that he has now experienced love with Robin. And that therefore their entire lives here on earth would now just be like Shakespearean groundlings watching the Romeo and Juliet with a happy ending for the rest of their lives. That is Cody and Robin. You know what I'm saying? Like having to watch, standing in the sidelines for the rest of their lives, like the greatest love story unfold in front of them. That's what he thought these women should say yes to. And he never had any compassion for either, being like, the minute that I realized I was in love with Robin, that it probably then would never love the other women. And therefore my choices would reflect that, because I don't love them. And therefore they would be harmed by that and put in an unfair situation. None of that gave him the sensitivity that their happiness was worthwhile, or measured a little bit of his. And in this whole situation, how he blames like them and how they weren't on board. I really wish that this Dagar guy, who I don't even fucking care about, because you can only imagine that he probably is problematic too. I do wish that he or like one of or a symphony of Cody's older brothers would sit him down and be like, "You fucked up. You were incredibly unkind to women who bore you children and created a life with you. You were unfair. You favored someone so highly that everyone was disgusted with you like your own children, and then you blamed them for that, and it's on TV. So even if you are like, "No, that's not what happened," how about all the comments from people? Like, does any of that penetrate? No? Like, I just sometimes Suki does her best to get him to, like, see one rational truth about the reality of his life, and he certainly won't. But it's because I think that she's a woman and not, probably a bunch of other reasons. I wish that we could, like, get someone who we assume he has to respect, and that person's going to be a white older male, to put him in his place. I wish to God. It's like that's this anyway. Because my other side of me is, of course, I want Robin to be put in her place, and the way that that happens is by, unfortunately, Cody doing the same thing that he did with her with a younger woman. That's it. So, okay. Um, the other things that are happening are that, the Christine Janelle situation. So after McKelty moved, we now find out that Peyton is on his fucking way out too. Okay. Now, Christine is mad about Peyton, not as mad about McKelty, but of course, now it's like undeniable that people be moving east. And there are comments now that we get to hear between Janelle and Christine. This season is about Janelle and Christine's relationship. And I wish we could see more, and I'll tell you. So, obviously, there's some comments that we talk about that Janelle made, I guess, to Christine, like, "Now I get to see all the grandbabies," and that Christine was, like, truly hurt by that. And she was like, "How could you not see that would hurt me?" And, yeah, I think that Janelle I think that Janelle probably did know it hurt her. Or but it was the truth. That's where all the grandbabies are gonna be, so it was like she didn't know. I think some of it's the truth, so now, we know that Christine sells a dumb MLM product. It's called Plexus, right? It's like a pink drink, and it's like she shills it. She's not the only one. Mary, I've talked about her LaRuru or whatever, and across the board, a lot of women fall prey to MLMs. And I think that there has to be a place where I know that I'm being ignorant and that maybe it serves a purpose. But to me, I'll never use it, and I think it's weird. And maybe some MLMs are better than others, but I can't imagine some weird powdered pink drink is like it. So Christine is talking to David and, talking about some of the like distance now physically, I mean, between her and Janelle, but also the fact that their businesses have now become separate. Now, Janelle is, of course, doing the farm situation, but they were selling Plexus together, and not just her, McKelty as well, and maybe others, because MLMs work that you want to get other people on board because then it's like a pyramid thing, and then they make money and you make money and everyone's making money and they're famous. And so they can really just like use that social media to just do absolutely no work and just get people to buy some bullshit. Christine lost weight and then really was like, yeah, this is all it, they've lost all this weight because of this pink drink. I think Janelle was trying to do that as well, or did. I don't quite know. But either way, they are no longer working together, and you can tell that it's probably for the best, and Christine feels some type of way about it. And it's I wish we knew more about Plexus because it's a real thing they do. Like, they go online and they sell this drink and they have to like do the orders, and like obviously it's a pyramid scheme, and I think it would be like really fucked up to actually show. I wish that the women would show it thinking they'd make money, but for actual people to see, they shouldn't be buying this bullshit. It's interesting that Christine will show us an Airbnb, and talk about that side business, but she's not talking about the plexus. Why? Okay, it's because maybe legally she can't. But it's just, yeah, I think that, I wish that she wouldn't. So, if Janelle isn't selling Plexus anymore and the farms is her way of getting out of it, then I'm really happy for her. I think that Christine has the propensity to, like, do some soul searching and be like, I wonder how I can upgrade and evolve my life now. Because I think that sometimes we feel like, oh, we've made this one big change and now I'm done. Now I'm done surviving, evolving, and I've got myself to a new state. But the truth is, it's not, right? It's like a constant thing. And Christine's like major life shift, even though it looked like it happened really fast, right? Where she was like, fuck you, Cody. I'm gonna start dating. I'm in love with David, married to David, living. That the impact of all of those moves are still radiating on the person that Christine is and, like, hitting spaces and stuff like that, which is great because now we get to see, like, that David isn't, you know, the end all be all and that, there is some, like, underlying tension between, for sure, Christine and Janelle, perhaps Christine and some of her kids. It isn't like McKelty and Peyton are like, "We're not talking to Christine." They still love their mom. But something about McKelty and Peyton's goodbye to their mom was very like, "Mom, I love you. I want the best for you." But because of what has happened with the family, because of all of your choices, maybe because of how, you know, y what's happened to you is we're really happy for you, but the toll it's taken on us just as, like, children is that it was a lot, and we need to find safe energy and space that we can feel comfortable in, and it's just of interest that it's not close to Christine. Christine really speaks lovely of her, her appreciation for Janelle's relationship with her kids. You know, um, she loves the fact that her kids love Janelle, and, it's interesting because back in the day, we were like, "Well, Janelle worked and Christine, I feel like, did a lot of, like, the kid work stuff or whatever." I think that Janelle's energy was always a little more grounded and peaceful and less insecure than anyone else's, including Cody's. And she also, like, had found the space and time for her to leave the family, right? Like, she was very vocal early on in seasons that she worked to, like, be able to, like, find that within herself, that kind of, like, me time, that time away from the family unit to be in the real world, to, like, talk to real people and stuff like that. And it allowed Janelle to have, like, a certain kind of ease in her life. She doesn't need much, She's really, she's like a hardcore she feels like a hardcore pioneer woman, and, like, Maddie very much seems like a Janelle, like, earthy. It feels easy to be around Maddie and Janelle. Like, that they're just going to be doing kind of simple family things without any sort of, like, put upon desire other than just to be with each other. Christine does that too, but Christine has a natural anxiety to her, I think. And I'm speaking from someone that has it too, that I think, you know, with all of the kids combined with a fucking partner in Cody that wasn't helpful emotionally, physically at all, it probably made Christine on edge a lot. And Mary was yelling at kids. Maddie hates Mary. You know what I'm saying? And by hates, I mean she just never wants to see her again and feels sympathy and, for who Mary is. But, like, obviously is very vocal, Maddie is, about how Mary was difficult on the kids. That, yeah, like, that in this moment, because of everything that happened, Garrison's death, the family unit, like, falling apart, these these children, these kids, the Peyton, like all of these, the generation of Brown family, and, obviously it's a big generation, really feel the need to like come together and just be in the most like homey, safe space possible so they can feel okay. And I get that. And I think Christine gets it too. It's just hard to deal with, because then she's alone with David. I want Christine to start a business that has a product or has a skill level that isn't Plexus. I don't know what it's going to be. She has great hair, like Chris, like, like maybe I don't know, that's one thing. Maybe she can, write a cookbook about big family meals, like maybe she, I know I just said that Janelle's like a pioneer lady, but maybe literally Christine can just go full pioneer woman and just like with that long ass red hair pretend to be like a Ray Drummond and, make Velveeta sliders or whatever. I don't know, but I'm just saying I would do anything for her not to like be shilling weird chemicals to like women that want to lose weight or whatever online. Um yeah, like Christine having just David is such an interesting thing. When David's like, "Yeah, my nickname is Muerte," and she didn't know what Muerte is and she finds out it's death. She's like, "Oh, great. What's happening with my life?" Um there are a lot of other moments in this it's a weird transitional episode for, and I say transitional because literally Peyton's packing up and moving, and again we get a whole other episode of Cody moving. But we've also seen this season, like we've seen Robin refer to Cody's kids as your kids and him feel like she's talking about kids that are in fact not his. When he's talking to Michael, his brother, he refers to his kids as Christine's kids, her kids. And his own brother has to be like, "No, fucking your kids, buddy." Yeah, no, my kids. The mental gymnastics that Cody has had to do to make himself the victim are laughable. And they're indicative of someone who truly has no basis in reality. When he talks, it seems like roid conversations. He seemed like his the thought process seems drug fueled almost in how off center they are. His rationals for everything and like what why his kids don't talk to him and how he can paint himself as being the ultimate victim and how everything that he's tried has failed through no fault of his own. And the ways his eyes look as he's looking at camera, what feels like is trying to talk himself into this being the truth. I mean, if I didn't know anything, I'd be like, does the motherfucker do coke or something? It just doesn't seem real. Like, and I think that it goes, again, this is why I keep bringing up, it goes to show that there is no one in his life that he listens to anymore. There's no mentor for him. Like, there isn't someone that he like respects or responds to that feels like he is capable of listening to their advice. Not even Robin. Cuz he won't listen, like he won't forgive his kids and he won't try and have a good relationship with his kids, which is something that Robin has wanted him to do. Now, Robin is a dual-edged sword because his kids hate Robin, but Robin wants him to do something and he surely won't. And I think that therein lies the rub because Robin has become disgusted by that. he'll say things like, "Yeah, I don't know if I have the same value in Robin's eyes anymore." And it's almost as if he thinks that's because his value was tied to the number of relationships and wives he had, and the fact that he no longer has Christine, Janelle, Mary, and or his relationship with any of his kids, that therefore that is why he's, has less value in Robin's eyes. But to me, it's because Robin thought that he had the wherewithal and discernment to build what looked like a great life and balance personalities and have like discernment and emotional intelligence and like be able to make good decisions that would keep a family on course, financially stable, emotionally stable, because that is unfortunately all of the pressure that polygamist style puts on the head of the household, who's also like the priest and therefore ushering the family into heaven. It's a lot, right? It's a lot to put on that person. I'm not giving the man that much pity. He gets to fuck whoever he wants, you know what I'm saying? But it's like it is a lot to put on someone, and he failed. We don't know exactly where he failed and when he failed. We could say, well, it's the moment he met Robin and decided to, like forego everything else that was up there. But the problem with that is because that's what we saw because Robin came on like in the first season. And everything else that we were given, which was before then, we lived a fantasy life in this one big ass house where we raised all the kids and it was beautiful and amazing. But we unfortunately had to leave Utah because we were almost arrested. But until then, everything was perfect. It was fucking Neverland or whatever, Disneyland. Like, we're supposed to believe that. But the truth of the matter is that can't be 100% real. And we know it's not because we know things like Maddie said that Mary was a nightmare. And we know that, Cody said that Janelle and Christine hated each other. We know that it wasn't perfect. Now, how they all grinned and bared it or how they all made it work, that part is confusing. Maybe it's age, maybe it's naivete, maybe it's just like human nature being stuck and not knowing better. But through the course of Sister Wives and time, they started to realize things, that they had feelings, that their feelings were worthwhile, that feelings had changed, you know. And then when Robin came, the entirety was like shifted immensely. And so we blame Robin and we blame Cody, and that's who we and truthfully, at its core, it's Cody. Cody is head of the household. Cody knew he wasn't being fair. Cody knew he fell in love. And Cody knew that how he was choosing to express his love would not be kind to the other people in his family. And he didn't care. And then Robin surely didn't care and didn't make it easier for him. It almost seems like Robin made it harder for him by, low key bringing up things that were mean to her, annoying to her, kind of throwing people under the bus or making it seem like she was so other, that Cody like forced everyone to try and feel sympathy for Robin, which also didn't work. Because that was easier to make everyone else change their behaviors and viewpoints than Cody just keeping shit on the goddamn DL a little more. Being a little more cognizant of his words, being a little more fair about things. He refused to do that. He wanted what he wanted, which was to live with Robin full time in the biggest, best house. That's what his priority became, instead of having a cohesive family that all love and respect each other. And so, I mean, I don't understand why he blames anyone else besides himself and why he doesn't see that. Um, It's funny because he's like, Christine 15 years ago said I hate polygamy. He has a come to Jesus moment a little bit with Christine where he's like, yeah, she said she hated polygamy. And I was so mad at her when she left, but she had to leave, didn't she? Yeah, bitch. She fucking had to leave. And there's no leaving you in a nice way. How do you leave a polygamous family that you've had 6 kids with, that you've raised with cleanly, neatly? There's no way. Like, there's just, I mean, Cody, thank you so much for your time and your space. I have taken the liberty of hiring a lawyer through my own, like, there's no like way. Here is a drafted proposal. I will move out. There's just no way. Christine did, I think, the best possible thing she could do, which is like, okay, if you're going to tell me that we're no longer going to have a marital bed, then I'm going to tell you you're no longer welcome in my marital bedroom. Okay. So if we're no longer married and sharing marital space, then we're no longer married. What's the problem? Christine didn't like Christine didn't seemingly put up that much of a fight. Once COVID happened, Cody was already not living with any of the family members except for Robin. So like it was a really easy, natural transition, which they've all talked about, Janelle and everything of this. Well, when push comes to shove and you think the world's ending and you can only be around the pot of people that you trust, that you want to be with, you certainly knew who you picked. Yeah. There's kind of like, it's an interesting test, right? Like it was a fucked up test. COVID, like in that time for that family. Who are you going to pick to be with on a day to day? Who do you choose to be with? Who is good enough for you to be with? Who do you trust enough? Who is allowed to be with you and who is not allowed to be with you during this time? Who are you like, my doctors say no because of this person, so I can't be around you, but I can be around you? I had this actually happen to me. One of the reasons why, and this is very truthful, I'm not talking to my mom, is because my mom didn't want to be around me during COVID, but was wildly quick once she felt comfortable enough to demand upon me things when I realized, yeah, when push comes to shove, my own mom, like, isn't it? Isn't it? There's no like coming back from a certain like inevitable truth. Like once an inevitable truth hits you, like washes over you and you really sink in it, like a knowledge, like a truth. And it's based upon like behaviors. And sometimes there are multiple behaviors that once you sit down, you piece them together, you're like, oh my God. Yeah. And then, yeah, there's no longer an option of not knowing. And once you know, that's what it is. So all his kids were like, yeah, fuck you, dad. If that's what we're going to call you. Maddie won't even talk to him. McKelty tried so hard. McKelty was the last beacon of hope that like was like, either like this family needs to be together. This is all I know. There are people in this family that need each other. And if they don't have the strength to like fight for this, maybe I can try and fight for this family for them. Like, when McKelty is fighting for the family, we know that people are still alive that are no longer alive, right? I'm not saying that she's fighting for Garrison, but in those times in which she's still trying to be friends with Robin and all that stuff, I think that McKelty is from a very honest point, like trying to keep together like the life that she knows, not just for her, but for other people involved. And it doesn't go well, right? Like McKelty no longer gives a shit about that. It's like, fuck Robin. I'm going to move to like the people that like love me. And that's like low key why I wrote this Substack, because I wrote a Substack. I wrote a Substack article, again, just in case you've tuned in. I wrote a Substack article for McKelty in regards to the season on my Substack called Vanity Fair, Big Sis Energy, McKelty Brown and Mindful Brows. McKelty, like each and every one of us, deserves a set of brows that celebrate the soul peeking through the 2 windows sitting below them. And McKelty does, because McKelty's a beautiful person, a peacemaker that wanted to like bring people together. And McKelty sacrificed a lot of her time and energy doing that for people that didn't deserve it and weren't going to ever give her back any of it. And McKelty now gets to do things that make her happy. She gets to like move to a space where her husband can like flourish, and she gets to move to a home that feels really homey. And this new home, because they show their house last episode in Charlotte, North Carolina, probably also has like, some great options for like some microbladers for those brows, because I love McKelty so much. But everyone on that show, honey, has gone through brow issues. Cody doesn't have any brows, and Cody's hair looks like that. We don't give a shit about that. But obviously, Robin's brows have been wild for years, and Mary's brows have been wild for years. And McKelty, I want to like end the cycle. So I made a bunch of eyebrow makeup recommendations for McKelty and other fun blonde taupe looking cool tone babes, because the colors she's picking aren't it, and the shapes are too boxy. Okay, so one of the last scenes we have is like Janelle really like showing us what she meant by being like, this is the hub of the family. This beautiful work. At one point, they also show us like a drone shot of what Coyote Pass's land looks like and the Takeda Farms land. And you also get to see like, low key, this is a tangent, but America really has some beautiful land. Like Utah is so gorgeous. Arizona is so gorgeous. Idaho is so gorgeous. Colorado is beautiful. This like areas of like the Delta and the South are like wildly gorgeous. Anyway, all this. They have a lot of land. Homes are not up yet, but they're doing what they can. They, have a lot of family. They've chosen a time in which everyone can come to the farm and celebrate the holidays. And so they're going to chop down a tree on their property. I've never chopped down a tree. This is one of those things, like, because I was raised so urbanite, and, because my dad is such a city slicker, like, the idea that, like, people cut down trees, like, on a yearly basis or take them anywhere or know how to do that is just, like, so wild to me. But, like, yeah, it's when I see people do, like, farm stuff and, like, oh god, that's not farm stuff. That's, like, manual labor when it comes to land work, I'm so impressed. Like, so people cutting down trees impresses me, and people like getting cows together by using a horse, like that kind of rodeo work impresses me. We've seen Cody cut down trees before, and he tells the story about how he almost, how he did not listen to Mary, who was like, "Hey, dumbass, let's move the truck before you cut down that tree that's in the fucking path of the truck." And he didn't. He's like, "No, no, no, no." And Cody then cut down the tree and it fell on the truck. I love that story because when you see a tree, there's only so many places it can fall. And even if you thought it wasn't going to fall on it, I'm assuming that the truck was close enough that you would be, you know what though? It'd be a great idea for me to move it. But the audacity to be like, this bitch don't know what she's talking about. It's not going to hit the truck. And for that tree to hit that truck, and for him to tell the story and not know that it's embarrassing for him to be so like hard-headed and stubborn is indicative of what has happened the entire season. But Maddie married a good dude who like knows not to like, not listen to people and knows how to cut down trees. And they cut down a tree, and, they're going to decorate it for Christmas. And Peyton is like so happy to be there and like being one of the family. Peyton has problematic tendencies offline, but I don't follow him enough to like know all of them. But I think that he probably, I'm assuming is A, like his dad a little bit in some ways, and B, is probably conservative. And so I'm sure there's a world of like different political ideologies that I wouldn't ever subscribe to that I'm sure he does. His personality is so interesting though because we don't get to see him really interact with like his brothers that much. God bless. We get a lot of information about his relationship with Garrison. We certainly know that like Garrison passed but we know he has a lot of brothers. All that to say, Peyton's personality is always kind of like a golden retriever puppy who wants like a gold star. But I sometimes want to see what he's like with like different people. Like I know he's comfortable around Maddie and stuff like that. Like what's he like around Logan? I think about Logan a lot. And the other one, God, what's the other brother's name? That was like the younger one of Logan. There's one Gabriel. Anyway, I obviously totally respect all the kids that don't want to be on the show. I do kind of just wish I knew. And maybe this would just require me to do like a deep dive into each one of their Instagrams, like how they're doing. I could do that. I could do like some detective work for us. So basically, I'm so sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I kind of went all over the place. And so I'm like, oh my God, I already talked about that. So as Janelle's family puts up this Christmas tree, they put it outside and they light the lights. And Christine's not there yet, but we know that other people are going to get there. And this is earlier on in the holiday season, but this is where they're all coming together. I'm assuming that next episode will like really get into that, which will be really, really great because the family being all together is actually some of the best parts. And especially if we get to see people who aren't usually on camera and just like, even in passing. And also they'll probably talk about Cody and Robin. The last scene ends with like, Cody grabbing his family in an empty home and praying all together, thanking God for this home, and Robin saying that she cried and that she did her own goodbye to the home, and that it was really hard because the home was the last place the family was a family, which is obnoxious for her to keep bringing up because every other member of that family who was part of that family is so fucking happy to be rid of you, to not have to see you, that it's very funny for you to be like, I'm holding on to the idea of the family that hates me and that I ruined. Also, the family never lived in that home. And that home was the reason why they hated you. One of the reasons. One of the very actually a small reason. And that is verbatim, Robin, what you had said about Coyote Pass. That you were so sad to see Coyote Pass go because that was the last symbol of the family. So now this home is the last symbol. Like, can you stop having symbols? And can you stop assigning like so much intense meaning to dumb things? And is that what you do to your dolls? Where is the scene with Robin and her fucking dolls? And what was it like packing up the dolls? And why didn't we see that? I'm livid. Like, there must have been conversations between the producers and Robin and Cody being like, hey, do you mind if we just film, like, you were going to film the armoire and the stuff in the armoire as you pack it, Robin? And do you mind just going over, like, some of the accessories for those things and like, just like talking about this? She must have known that it was like so dumb and so embarrassing and just like, no. Because yeah, we only saw that one doll in the armoire once. And then we got 2 episodes of them packing all of their things. And we know there is $60K in dumb dolls somewhere in this home. And we're not allowed to have one little detailed scene of her packing their stupid bonnets. Why? We deserve it. What have we done to not get? We've done so much. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Really, Chris? An hour and 15 minutes? Is that all you have to say? Yeah, that's the end of the episode. It's I'm excited to see what happens next. That's when Christine and David get to the farm and, we get to see more of Janelle being like, "I hate David. David just wants to fucking talk to me about when I'm gonna date again." And I wanna be like, "Buddy, never. If it's only you and Cody's out there, I'm gonna deal with this farm and my kids and my grandkids and, my little mini me, that's Maddie." And, the thing about Janelle is that just like I said, I wanna see Mary playing pickleball. I do wanna see Janelle doing some other things that don't involve the farm stuff and Maddie's family. I would, because Janelle, we know, is someone who worked and got out of the home when she was, like, back in the day raising them kids. So I would like to assume that, like, there's a part of Janelle that also wants to live in the world now. Maybe Janelle's like, "I'll be honest, Chris, no. Now that I'm famous, it's too weird, and I would rather just retire and be chill on this fucking farm. And so you're never gonna see me do any of that. I'm just gonna hang out with babies for the rest of my life." That's why I don't care about dating. I mean, I want Janelle to have orgasms. Maybe she does. And I want Janelle to, like I want Christine, like I want Mary. I mean, having said if they want to continue being cisgender heterosexual people, to experience like loving relationships with, people that care about them and find them sexually attractive and, like genuinely love them. And also specifically because, yeah, they were in a long-term relationship with some dumb dude. And so now knowing that our friends, were like stuck in shitty situations, it's like that thing where we kind of want just them to experience it with someone else so that another shitty situation, I don't know, or just something else so that you get a variety. So you don't, so I don't want to, I don't know. There's something about it, and this is me and not Janelle, but for me, I want Janelle to experience more than one sexual partner. And maybe she's like, "Bitch, I did. And don't worry, I am. I'm just not gonna talk about it." And I would be like, "Good, good, good." But the idea that not Christine, but the idea that Janelle or Mary might have to like, only have experienced Cody is like maddening for me. When I saw Mary, joke about that kiss the cock shirt, I was like, okay, Mary's gunning. Janelle's always like given us like this, like, "Don't worry about my sex life, it's fine" vibe. And, I'm going to just, I guess, believe her, but also say, would love to see a little something. Would love to see her, like, I don't know, be able to like talk to some other man in a in a flirty way. And I also want that because if we see it, then Cody sees it. Okay, that's all I have to say. All right, my loves. How are you? How has life been? I just want to do a little check-in. I was supposed to go to an event tonight and I realize now I'm not going to go. No way. I'm going to stay in. There's something about the fall where I end up falling into a rut of not being able to leave my home at night. Just a tinge of coolness in the air. And I'm in California, so it's a fucking tinge. And it's like, nope, can't do it. But also like traffic and parking is hard. I love you guys so much. I'm so happy that you were here for this episode. Obviously, coming up on the docket is more this week. We'll do 90 Day the Other Way tomorrow at 5. And we'll do the Wednesday Love is Blind drop episode of Weddings at 7 p.m. Which is exciting. If you haven't yet, please like this video. Please subscribe to this channel. Hey, hi. Please comment after the video's gone up. All of that like really helps your girl being me. Of course, you can also follow me. I am at Chris L. Farah on Instagram and TikTok and Substack. Of course, you see that I wrote that ridiculous article about McKelty and her eyebrows. You can go read if you want more. But yeah, that's all what's happening. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with me. Can you believe it? It's basically the end of the year. It's basically, I wonder, so if we're watching Janelle, we're watching Janelle get the farm together for the holidays, but we know that this shoots like 2 years before, which means that I think that we're watching something that didn't happen in 25. I think we're watching something that happened in 24. I mean, sorry, 23. It's 25 now. It's October 2025. A year ago, 24. So yeah. Or is it 1 year? I'll do some research and find that out. I think it's 1 year. Okay, so we know what's coming up. You can follow me for more information on social medias. I love you guys so much. Yeah, it's 2 more months till the year. Cannot believe how time is flying, but it seems wild, and I want it to slow down. Mostly, I want this world to heal. Mostly, I want us to stop killing each other. Mostly, I want there to be a president that knows how to like bring people together and lead a nation and be fair for everyone. I want the antithesis of the president we have now, and I want the antithesis of a Cody. We have a Cody Brown as a president. Wow. What a horrible note I'm ending this on. Really bad. But truthful. All right, my loves. So listen, what can you do? Take care of yourselves and one another. Stand up for what you believe and make art. I don't know. Maybe that's it, I think. But I certainly appreciate you spending time with me here. And I'll talk to you later. Okay, babes? All right. Bye.